Hey guys, Oscar Combs here with the ISO 9001 group. And in today's episode of the ISO show, we will be talking about surviving the tariffs with ISO 9001. So on April the 2nd of 2025, just a couple of days ago, President Trump announced reciprocal tariffs on around 90 nations that charges the United States more than 10% on their imports. So goods coming from the US into their country. Now, in addition to that, President Trump implemented a baseline 10% tariff on all imports from all countries coming into the United States. Many people are concerned about this. So how can your quality management system help you survive this tariff war? Let's talk about it. All right, guys, so let's talk about this a little bit more as to what's going on here and how your quality management system can help you survive the tariff war that's currently going on. So as I mentioned, on April the 2nd, President Trump announced a reciprocal tariff system, guys, on imports coming from other countries and a baseline 10% tariff on all imports into the United States. I mean, to me, it makes sense. Mr. Trump referred to this as Liberation Day. Mr. Trump stated that he believes that tariffs are needed to erase the trade deficit that we currently operate in, and we have been operating in for many, many years, guys. Several countries such as China, Canada, Europe, they've all responded, being very upset, increasing their tariffs on U.S. goods coming into their countries, guys. So, of course, that's to be expected. Now, the increase of tariffs on goods imported into the U.S. from other countries will, of course, have an impact on cost of goods and also to the cost of the end customers in the United States. But the same is true with the increase of tariffs that the U.S. is implementing. The same is true in the other countries. So it's going to increase their costs for their goods and also to their end customers or consumers in their countries. So this is totally understandable why other countries are upset, but it's totally understandable what President Trump is doing. He's literally just saying we're going to charge the same tariff on your goods coming into our country that you've been charging on our goods coming into your country. So many years this has been unbalanced, and he's just correcting or balancing this. And he's also saying that there will be a minimum 10% tariff for all countries. Goods that are coming into the U.S. I don't know about you guys. This just like literally totally makes sense. The United States, just in 2024, we lost 1.2 trillion. Let me say that again. $1.2 trillion in just 2024. Now, how is that sustainable, guys? We are, as a company, operating at a loss, trillions and trillions of dollars at a loss, but every year we're also losing 1.2 trillion or more in trade deficit. So we've been losing money. And what if this was your business? Every year you're losing $1.2 trillion. Come on now. Of course, this has to be addressed. This is basic math, guys, and basic common sense. So this reciprocal tariff that President Trump has implemented is just simply equalizing and doing what charging what the other countries are charging us on our goods going into their countries. So in the short term and in the long term, this just makes sense. In the short term, yes, this is a little painful, a little concerning, and there may be some tough days ahead, guys, but that's temporary. So what we need to focus on is the big picture here. And the big picture is that we need to stop operating in a trade deficit as a country. Just in 2024 alone, $1.2 trillion we lost. Just imagine if that was your company, as I mentioned. Now, okay, we are all concerned here. As I mentioned, all the other countries are concerned about how this is going to impact the goods coming into their countries and how this is going to impact their companies internally, their consumers, raising prices. But let's just talk about the US. And more specifically, we are concerned on how this is going to impact our organizations and our customers, okay? So how will these tariffs impact your organization? So the increased tariffs for goods purchased from other countries such as China and other countries that your company may purchase goods from, this will possibly, I would say it will increase the cost of goods for your organization. So things that you are purchasing, that you are maybe raw materials such as steel or other materials, polymers, things of this nature that you may, textiles, things that you are importing from other countries today, and you are sourcing it from overseas because it is cheaper or less expensive. So that is going to increase your costs immediately once the reciprocal tariffs come into play. So it's definitely understood that this would be concerning for many organizations. Now, what the increase in tariffs could possibly do or mean for your organization, of course, it could mean an increase in prices to your customers, that you feel like, okay, the tariff is 34%, and before you were paying less than that, or the tariff was less than 34%. And so now this is going to increase your cost for those goods coming in from other countries by the difference of what you were paying and what the current reciprocal tariff will be from the other countries that you have been purchasing from. So typically most companies say, well, we need to increase our price and pass this additional cost along to our customers, right? Most companies do that. First thing that comes to mind. Now, when we increase the prices, what impact does that have? It can have an impact on your sales, right? Because now your customers may not be able to afford the increase in your price. All right. Now, it could also lower the demand for your product or your services. Now, the sales, guys, we have to understand that the decrease of your organization's ability to sell its goods in other countries, right? So it's not just impacting your customers that purchase from you in the US. You may have customers overseas, or maybe not overseas, Canada, for example, that also purchase from you, and they also may not be able to afford this increase in your price due to the tariff. But guys, we all know that sales are the lifeline of all organizations, right? We have to have sales coming in. That's how we get our cash. That's how we generate revenue. That's how we keep the doors open. And that's how you all get paid, including me, right? So we have to keep the sales going, guys, and try to keep that demand. But we definitely, most organizations that are impacted by these tariffs will possibly consider increasing the prices on their products and or services. Now, what about the increased cost of goods to your company? So what are cost of goods? This is all the raw material and other products, consumables that you purchase to make your product. All right, so an increase of those products coming from other countries, of course, will have a negative impact on your cost of goods, and you may have to reduce your operating expenses in your organization to accommodate for that increased cost of good. And how does companies typically decrease operating expenses? They reduce their expenses. They start laying people off. They start shutting things down. They start cutting hours. They start trying to use less expensive product. You know, all kind of ways that they're trying to make adjustments due to these tariffs that are coming. What about decreasing profits and returns to owners and investors, shareholders in your organization? You know, all organizations, we better be in business to make a profit, because that's the goal of all business, is to make a profit so that you can return a portion of those profits back to the investors, the owners of the company, shareholders of the organization that invested in the company to sell its products and or services, right, guys? So sometimes investors and all of that, they get a bad rap, and owners, but they are the ones who put up their capital, their money at risk to pay salaries to other people, to purchase products and services from other companies, to pay taxes, things of this nature, guys. So let's understand that the end goal, the ultimate goal, must be for an organization to make profits and to return a portion of those profits back to those who implemented the initial capital into the company, or injected that initial capital into the company. So these are the things that your organization are probably concerned about when it comes to these increases in tariffs from other countries, right? Now, although I stated that these tariffs that President Trump has implemented, I agree with them. Let's just be clear. It makes total business sense to do what President Trump is doing, especially the reciprocal and the baseline. You guys realize that some countries were getting charged 0 tariffs on their goods coming into the U.S. And some countries were charging us double, sometimes triple, than what we were charging on their goods coming into our country versus the goods we were shipping into their country. That doesn't make sense, guys. Come on now. But let's not act like this is not going to have an impact on our organizations here in the U.S. It's going to have an impact on our employees, our customers, our suppliers. But there is something that we can do to survive, to help us survive this tariff war, guys. And I want to talk about how we can use our quality system to help us survive it. So you may say, Oscar, how can a quality system help us survive this tariff war that's going on? Pretty simple, actually. Guys, when I say quality system, of course, we all think about ISO 9001 and other quality system standards. But when I say quality, I'm talking about ISO 9001 plus other quality management system standards. I don't have time to mention the hundreds of different standards, but right now we're just going to kind of focus on ISO 9001 and realizing that the principles of ISO 9001, you'll find them in pretty much all of the other quality management system standards. But one of the main principles that will help your organization survive this tariff war is that processes, controlling your processes, improving your inputs and your outputs, improving the efficiency of your overall processes themselves, guys. Having documented standard operating procedures. Guys, SOPs, that's the infrastructure. A lot of leaders and organizations that I talk to today, they still have the mindset that, oh, this is all about paperwork. Guys, if you still think your quality system, your standard operating procedures, your process controls are all about paperwork, you're probably going to be one of those organizations that will be negatively impacted by these tariffs. While other organizations who understand that these systems are tools that they can use at the right time to make adjustments and calibrations on their processes to improve things based upon the current environment, those who understand that, those are the ones that I'm talking to, and those are the ones that will survive this tariff war. Your quality system, guys, is not just paperwork. This is a tool that should be implemented into your overall business processes. So why haven't we made the connection of our quality system to the financial operations of our organizations? So let's go back to some of the things that I was talking about previously. Now, we talked about increasing sales. But what I'm talking about really is that I'm talking about increasing sales volume. See, a lot of organizations, when it comes to talking about adjusting for the additional tariff, their first thing is, oh, well, let me increase the prices, pass that cost along to the customer. Well, guys, what about increasing sales? Have we ever thought about that? That we can increase the volume of our sales, right? Now, many organizations, they don't think about that and they can't do it because they don't have the infrastructure. They don't have the systems in place to do it, right? They don't understand that their procedures and their processes are the exact thing that will allow them to increase their sales. Not just their prices, guys. So that's what we have to focus on. Increasing our sales volume and our systems will allow us to do that. What about reducing your cost of goods? How can you reduce your cost of goods when your cost of goods are increasing due to tariffs? Well, several ways. Now, a lot of your cost is coming because we're not doing good supplier evaluations, meaning that we don't have good criteria when it comes to evaluating and selecting our suppliers. Some organizations are literally just Googling and finding suppliers. They don't go check them out. Their cost of goods are high because their supply chain is wasteful, not timely. Their supply chain is using inferior material, product, services, things of this nature, right? So actually, you think your cost of goods is a good cost, but you forget to factor in all the costs after you receive the goods that you have to still incur, right? An effective supply chain strategy will allow you to negotiate based upon your volume of purchasing that you are purchasing from that supplier. It will also allow you to consolidate and be more efficient in your supply chain, right? So do you really need to purchase the same commodity from 5 different suppliers, or can you consolidate that volume down to maybe 3 or 4 suppliers so you can have better negotiating leverage? Now, more importantly, ISO 9001 can help you stop wasting material. How about that? For reducing your cost of goods. So many organizations, guys, I've been in many organizations, seen many warehouses full of inventory that's been there for years, got dust all on them. They don't use it. Millions of dollars of inventory. See, that's waste, guys. How can you reduce your cost of goods if your tariffs increase? Be more efficient in how you're managing your inventory. You have some organizations buying the same thing 4 or 5 times. One buyer is buying one thing and the other buyer is buying the exact same thing for the exact same project. I've seen this with my own eye. Wasting the company's money, but they don't realize it, and they're not understanding that because they don't have a good supply chain management process, a good inventory management process, good procedures around those areas, that they're already paying high cost on their cost of goods. And so for sure, if these tariffs go into play, and sounds like they are, these companies are the kind of companies that will be negatively impacted. These are the ones that the first thing they do is let's increase prices. Let's lay people off. They won't put the work in to really look at their processes and how they can make them more efficient and effective. What about this, guys? Your quality management system will help your organization sustain or even increase your profits during this tariff war. Does that make sense? It makes sense to me, right? So if the tariffs increase your costs by a certain percentage, it could have a certain percentage negative impact on your profitability. If you don't do anything that we talked about here, make those adjustments, assess your processes. But let's say you made improvements and you were able to make accommodations for your increase of your cost of goods due to these tariffs. That would be sustaining profitability, which would be great. Meaning that you're not losing any money, you're sustaining your profitability that you had even before the tariffs. But mind-blowing thing here, you can even increase your profitability during this tariff war by all of these efficiencies that I just talked about. Making sure that your processes are more effective, making sure that your processes are documented, making sure that people are trained, making sure that your results of your organization are reliable and repeatable. Guys, there's so many ways to find this increase in tariff. We don't have to just freak out because the market is freaking out. That's why we have a quality management system. Those organizations that don't have a quality management system, they are the ones that probably should be freaking out, not us. We have processes in place. We know what we're doing. We know how to make adjustments. It's understandable about our concern about these tariffs. I don't want to minimize this, but what I do want to stress is that what President Trump is doing makes good business sense. I don't hear a lot of people arguing about these tariffs. They're concerned about the increase, but our concern should be with the other countries, not with what we're doing. If we're simply saying we're going to charge, if you're charging us 40% on our goods coming into into your country, and we're charging you 10%, we're going to now charge you 40%. Guys, that's simple math. Come on, that's not a big deal. President Trump, kudos, good job. That policy totally makes sense. But it doesn't mean that it is not going to have an impact on us, but I've given us some ideas on how we can become more efficient and nimble, control our risk, control our supply chain, reduce our cost of goods, operate more efficient, control our inventory costs more and more effectively. These are all ways that we can make minor adjustments, sometimes probably significant adjustments, but it'll take a little work. But these are things we should have been doing anyway, even without the tariffs, guys. Your quality management system is not paperwork. It's a tool to help your organization calibrate and make adjustments when you need to make those adjustments, guys. So hopefully you found this information helpful. Share and like the video. Subscribe to our channel. Oscar Combs here with the ISO 9001 group, helping organizations improve their operations and reduce their risk. Talk to you next time. Bye-bye now.